Welcome to Science with Soul. I'm Dr. Lottie Valentine and the host of this program. I'm a physician, evidential psychic medium, international keynote speaker, and the author of Med School After Menopause, The Journey of My Soul. This podcast was inspired by events from my own life, and as I have journeyed through life, it has taught me that we're part of a greater divine web of interconnectedness. I have walked the path of illness, healing, and transformation, and after experiencing 2 near-death experiences, I became clairvoyant, clairaudient, and clairsentient, and I was guided to attend medical school at the age of 54. In this podcast, we will meet many different types of doctors, healers, spiritual leaders, educators, and other interesting souls. And it is my hope that you will gain information from this podcast to help create a path of healing your own life physically, emotionally, and spiritually, and bridge the gap between science and soul. Welcome to Science with Soul. I'm Dr. Lottie and the host of this podcast. I'm so excited to be talking with Felicia Bender today about numerology and understanding your life path number. Felicia Bender, Ph.D., the Practical Numerologist, is devoted to helping audiences uncover their life's purpose and so much more with numerology. She is the author of Redesign Your Life, using numerology to create the wildly optimal you, as well as master numbers 11, 22, 33, the ultimate guide. Felicia facilitates presentations demonstrating how to use basic numerology to understand ourselves and other major players in our lives. She's able to expertly apply this information to validate strengths, understand challenges, and offers practical ideas about how to change what isn't producing positive results. She works both one-on-one and in groups. Felicia's experience with the theater and performance is apparent with her engaging, humorous, and audience-centered presentation style. More than 800,000 video views on YouTube, and she works with thousands of clients internationally. She's a featured columnist at astrostyle.com, and she has also been featured on astrostyle.com, Refinery 29, Women's Health, Yahoo Style, Momstrology, BeUnsettled.com, Numerologist.com, ElephantJournal.com, Numinist.com, Fashionista, The Stir, Life Stories with Johanna Garzilli, and Good Morning La La Land, and more. A very warm welcome to you, Felicia. I'm so excited to have you on the podcast today and share your knowledge about numerology to all the listeners.
Oh, I am always excited because and we've known each other for a little while now, so it's just wonderful to be with you again. So thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm so excited to have you on the show. I talk about numerology actually to my patients sometimes because it's apparent that if they just knew a little bit more about their own numerology and life path number, things will fall into place for them. And I'm really excited to have you share your knowledge with them today. Could you start by, for listeners that aren't aware of what numerology is, could you just explain it or give them an overview of what numerology is?
Oh, absolutely. You know, what's so funny to me is often I will meet someone and they'll say, well, what do you do? And I say, well, I'm a numerologist. And often they think I'm saying I'm a neurologist. So they start talking about brain tumors and everything.
Oh, that's funny.
So not a neurologist, a numerologist. And so numerology basically is a science and an art. There are different forms of numerology, and yet the kind that I use comes from Pythagoras. I don't know if any of you out there were paying attention in math class to the Pythagorean theorem of geometry, that sort of thing, because I was not paying attention.
I wasn't either.
Okay, thank you. And yet that's where this practice of numerology comes from. And basically Pythagoras, he was a mystic, a scientist, all kinds of things. He would have been a really kind of interesting guy to have dinner with, more than likely. And yet, basically, he posits this idea that numbers carry with them at more than a quantitative value, like, we're counting something, 1 apple, 2 apples, 3 apples, and so on, that the numbers carry with them a vibration, a frequency. They carry data. So it's kind of, we can extend our, we can kind of willingly suspend our disbelief in our technological age, right? Where we're where we work with computers, we've got cell phones, we've got the cloud, we've got all this stuff, right? That carries somehow miraculously all of this information to us.
Right.
So basically, it's that same idea that the numbers carry with that information, and we don't have to believe in it for it to be operating. It's kind of like gravity. We don't have to believe in it for us to, keep our feet tethered to the ground. And so basically, the concept here is that, numerologically speaking, we can look at your name, your full name as it appears on your birth certificate. And then we also look at your birth date. And we can formulate what many numerologists would consider a blueprint, or basically I call it your mission statement, your purpose for being here. And it can really outline very specifically what you're here to do, how you're going to do that, what your challenges might be. It also goes through cycles of time and what you're learning and experiencing in those and during those times, so that you could really make some meaning out of that. And so that's basically what numerology will give you. Each number, once you learn, if you're interested in it, the basic defining qualities of each of the numbers 1 through 9, you can begin to kind of plug those in, right, wherever they show up for you.
Wow, that's interesting. So how do you figure out what your life path number is?
Okay, well, so life path number, just for clarity, it's kind of like knowing your sun sign in astrology, right? It's like knowing you're a Sagittarius or a Gemini or whatever that might be for you. So if you're only going to know one number in your numerology chart, and just for clarity, there are many numbers in your chart that give you kind of that full spectrum idea about who you are. But overarchingly, if you're going to know one, it's this number, the life path number. And it really tells you, in my opinion, what you checked in to do, what your life's purpose is. And so it's going to be something that you have these innate gifts and talents with, and also some more intense challenges within those themes or thematics. So we're always talking in numerology about the optimal, what it's all about, right? And then we're going to talk about, the shadow side or the challenging side, and that often shows up as kind of an overactive element or an underactive element. So always, when we're talking right now, think about, when we're talking about each of the numbers, what the opposition might be. Like, for instance, if one of the things in your life path is that you're learning how to be a communicator, that is going to be a problem. That's going to show up in different ways as kind of a roadblock, but the ultimate goal is to really perfect that aspect of you. So with that said, the life path number really gives you a great overarching view about what you're here to, you're aspiring toward it, right? You're learning all about it. It is a lifelong process. You're learning about it from birth to death. So it's never over, and you've never totally achieved, right? It's always this process. So the way that we calculate this is very simple, and yet it does have some caveats, just like anything else, like in medicine, right, Dr. Lata? Mm-hmm. There are different ways. You could ask any doctor, well, what do you think the importance of vitamin C is as a nutritional supplement, right? And you get, one doctor will say, absolutely imperative, it cures cancer, and one will say, it's not important at all. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So understand that every ology, everything in life has different ways of doing things, different schools of thought around that. So with that said, There are two ways primarily to calculate this. And I'll go with the way that I calculate overarchingly and then talk about the variation. So you've agreed that we can use your birthday.
That is fine. Everybody will know my birthday. So,
Okay.
I'm expecting a happy birthday on my birthday.
Absolutely. Come on, everyone.
Facebook,
Put it in your
Instagram,
reminder.
right?
Absolutely. So what we're going to do, so if you're listening and you're interested in yours, get a piece of paper, because the thing about this is if you're off one number, you're way off, okay?
Yeah.
In numerology. So kind of like in construction, measure twice, cut once. You've got it, right? You need to add at least 2 to 3 times to make sure that you've got the correct number.
Right. And it can be a little confusing when you do it for the first time, and
Yes.
where you're supposed to end up at what number.
Exactly. So I'll attempt to painstakingly go through. And so don't get annoyed with me, but I'm attempting to do it because it can be confusing at the beginning. So what we're going to do is look at the month, the day, and the year of birth. So write that down on a piece of paper if you're listening. For this example, we're using May 28th, 1958. So you take May is the 5th month, right? So that is a number 5. So you write down 5. 28. So in numerology, we are always reducing to a 1-digit number, okay? There are some exceptions. And yet overall, that is our ultimate goal. We're reducing to a 1-digit number, because mostly in numerology, we're looking at numbers 1 through 9, okay? 1 through 9. So 28, we take the 2 plus 8. 2 plus 8 equals 10. Okay, now you're going to go, well, I've got a 10. That's still a 2-digit number, so we're going to continue to reduce. So 1 plus 0 equals 1. So 28 is a 1. Now we're looking at 1958. So 1 plus 9 is 10, plus 5 is 15, plus 8 is 23. That's a 2-digit number. So we're going to take the 2 and the 3 of 23 and add that together. And 2 plus 3 equals 5. So now you take all 3 1-digit numbers, add those together like one simple math problem. 5 plus 1 plus 5 equals 11. Okay? So then we would take 1 plus 1, and that equals 2. The issue here is that we're using kind of an intricate example as the first one, and then I'll give you another one that will be more basic. So the 5 plus 5 and 1 equals 11. 11 is in numerology considered a master number. The master numbers are the double-digit numbers 11, 22, and 33. They carry forward. There's 44 as well, but mostly what we're using for a personality profile will be the 11, 22, or 33. So I suggest that if you get a 2, if you get a 4, or if you get a 6, hang on tight, and we'll talk to you about how to do a second way of calculating to see if you might have that master number, the double digit. And we'll talk about what the master number actually is a little bit later when we discuss the numbers. So with that said, the second way of doing this calculation would be what I call the long way. It's a very technical term. We're gonna do it the long way. And so the long way would be just to add all the numbers together rather than segmenting them by month, day, and year. So that would be 5 plus 2 plus 8 plus 1 plus 9 plus 5 plus 8. That equals 38. So then remember, we continue to add. 3 plus 8 equals 11. and then 1 plus 1 equals 2. But when you get that 11, usually we just don't reduce that. But in numerology, and I'm one of those numerologists who I will do it, I'll do 11/2. So it's like an 11/2, because it does have a different kind of spectrum to it. So with that said, let's now move out of the master number example and talk about just an example that if you don't have a master number that you might see. So let's use the example August 14th, 1963. August is the 8th month, so that's an 8. 14, 1 plus 4 equals 5. 1963, 1 plus 9 equals 10. 10 plus 6 equals 16. And plus 3 equals 16, 17, 18, 19, right? 1 plus 9 equals 10. 1 plus 0 equals 1. So 1963 equals 1. So now we're going to do the same thing. 8 plus 5 plus 1 equals 14. 1 plus 4 equals 5. In this example, you would have a 5 life path. Okay? So is that making sense, Dr.
Yeah,
Lata?
yeah,
Okay.
that makes perfect sense. And then would you still do it the long way?
I would not, and yet you can. Well, it depends on how. So of course, we can always get very more intricate. It's like you've got the basic level, right, where you just all you want to know is that one digit number. As you get more involved in it, you can actually extract a lot more information by the double digits, because they do have influence on your single digit numbers. So for instance, if you're a 5, in this instance, you're a 14/5. That actually has some more significance. That's what we call a karmic debt number. We will not go into that right now. And yet, if you were a 23/5, that gives you a different influence with the 2 and the 5. If you're a 32/5, it's different. If you're a 41. So as you get deeper into the numbers, you can extract much more information. But as with everything else, right, when we start at a beginner level, we need to start at the beginner level. We just need to get the basic overview. And then if we want to dig deeper, we can. So in this case, no, I would not do the second way of adding, because you already know the result is a 5 life path, and that's enough to start with.
So that was a great explanation, because it can be confusing how to figure out what life path number you are.
Mm-hmm.
So once you figure this out, what life path number you are, is it a big difference? Is there actually a, life path 1 is a certain type of personality and a 5 is a different one? Could you talk a little bit about the different life path numbers and what is typical? Like now people have figured out that they're a 3 or a 7 or something. What can you say, anything about those different numbers?
Oh, absolutely. So out there, so if you've got your number in front of you, okay, here we go. So the 1, and we're going to talk 1 through 9, and then talk just briefly on the master numbers, because the one is the innovative leader, right? If you're a 1, you are learning all about how to create a lot of self-confidence. You are creative, you're the innovator, you are the number of self with a capital S. You are learning, it's the I words, right? You are it's all innovation, instigation, independence. You're learning to extract yourself from dependent situations. You're that courageous pioneer. You march to a beat of a different drummer. You are a creator. And so that is ultimately what you're about. Now, of course, you're going to have some roadblocks there. So you're learning how to extract from dependent situations. You're learning how to stand on your own 2 feet. You're learning how to be self-identified and not really follow the crowd at all. I always think about 1s as either one segment or the other, kind of the cheerleader, honor society, preppy, achiever people, or alternately the goths, the ones who are just rebelling against everything, right? Until they can figure out who they are. And usually the ones that are more in line with the mainstream go through their issues with that as well, right? And yet what you're really learning is how to get rid of that voice in your head that's saying, who do you think you are? What are you doing? La, 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 even ones who show as very large and in charge often have that self-deprecating tape going on. And if you know that, again, through numerology, if it resonates with you, you're like, oh my God, I just thought it was me. I just thought I was a loser. It's like, no, this is what you're working with, right? You're working on failing forward. You're going to be an experimenter. You are the visionary, like Steve Jobs was a one, those sorts of Tom Hanks, these people, these leadership, you're meant to be in leadership roles, but you're modulating your sense of self and learning how to play well in the sandbox, learning how to really engage other people and bring their talents and gifts into creating and launching your own vision, right? So on the upside, very positive, charismatic. On the downside can be kind of fold, be the one who does not step into themselves and their creativity and be a real victim, very cynical, very angry. Or alternately be the bully, right? Kind of that narcissist that can only see themselves. So that's the one. So we're always really wanting to accentuate the positive, and yet I find that oftentimes clients are like, I don't want to know all that. I want to know what the problems are. I don't want to know what the issues are, because they really want to work with that. And the beautiful thing also that I love about numerology is that there's no judgment here, and there's no criticism. It's just, this is presented to you, right? So how are you going to work with it? So does that make sense for the one?
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay. So if you were a two, I call you kind of the intuitive diplomat. You are the peacekeeper. The two is the lover, not the fighter, right? All about relationships, emotions, very intuitive, learning all about patience, not anyone's true favorite. Patience. But patience, the mediation. These people want group. They want to be part of a group. They want win-win outcomes. They want mediation, right? They don't want to be that hard-nosed negotiator. They want everyone to come out okay. They do everything with heart and with giving, right? So the blessing is the curse for the two, because they're very, very intuitive, very all about others. But any numerologist will tell you that the two is learning not to be a doormat. Okay, so the two is learning how to be self-identified without needing outside acknowledgement constantly. The two is often really projecting what they think other people need and then trying to shapeshift into being that pleaser. And yet as soon as they stop that and become really who they are, that's when everything starts to flow for the two. So again, very intuitive, and often really the life's work for the two is learning how to psychically, energetically, and emotionally set strong, healthy boundaries and not take things personally. So if you're a two, go read the 4 agreements and keep the chapter on not taking things personally on your mirror. And get you into some Brene Brown, right? Get you some good healthy boundaries going with that. So that's the 2. The 3 is the creative communicator, all about creative self-expression, emotional sensitivity. These people are meant to be in the spotlight. They're curious, they're engaged, they are the number of joy, of optimism. Their highest and best is when they are inspiring, uplifting, motivating others. Usually very gifted performatively, and really are meant to engage in impeccable communication throughout their lives. So if you're a 3, writing, podcasting, broadcasting, performing, anything having to do with the written or spoken word is really right up your alley. The 3 is often kind of scattered because so many curiosities, so little time. They're the people who have all the certifications, all the schooling, all of that. But they need to really wrap that into something that they can bring into something productive. They're learning the depth and breadth of bringing something to fruition that way. So the flip side here for the 3 is because you're learning about emotions, you are an emotion ocean, and sometimes those are far reaching for you. You're often brought into families where if you have an emotion, go outside, right? It's not meant to be spoken in this home. And often the 3 is learning how to have these emotions, experience them, and move them up and out in a productive, creative way. And so 3s can often have this debilitating self-doubt that will just stop them in their tracks. Analysis paralysis. And also, I don't know a 3 on the planet who hasn't really experienced some form of depression, because it's this emotional ups and downs, trying to get their handle around that, and who experience a lot of emotional trauma in life as well. So that is the 3. So much more, but that is overall what the 3 is all about. Making sense so far?
Yes, great.
Okay, so the 4 is the systems builder, the teacher, the artisan. The 4 is all about structure. Even if you look at the number 4, you turn it upside down, it looks like a chair or a box, right? It is foundations, earth energy, all about stability, security, systems building. It is the number of limitation. So if you have a 4 life path, you're usually very serious, very work-oriented, and find your sense of identity through that. So often a 4 will kind of bounce around a little bit in terms of trying to decide on what they're going to do, because that really serves as a root system for them in terms of their sense of self. Again, the security and everything is really, really important. It's also, I find 4s are working through family trauma, and everyone on the planet has whatever family issues. None of us are immune to that, but for the 4, it is part of the life's journey to really come to terms with that, and then create that sort of foundation in your own life that you want to have, right? So these people are amazing systems builders, hard workers, longer term goals, and they're very often very literal minded and very serious, like it's right or wrong, it's this or that, it's black or white. So you're learning about flexibility as a 4, how to be more flexible, how to see outside of your own box, right? Because you can limit yourself in a lot of ways. A lot of 4s are their own worst enemy in terms of standing in their own way of being able to get where they want to be. It's also the number of health. So you're really learning how to take care of your health, how to relax, because the 4 is the one with the punch list, right? And it's never done. If you're a 4, you're like, oh, I'll get to my exercise class tomorrow because I've got all this stuff on my list, but your list is never done. So you have to really prioritize yourself, even more so when you're a 4. Again, you are the person. So the flip side is that you can be really narrowly focused. You can be really, let's put it nicely. You can be really blunt and really bossy. So the 4 can, the 4 is like, because it's like, okay, we got stuff to do. I don't want any of this emotion stuff to get in the way. So the 4 can be one of those people who's like, well, I don't want to start an argument, but let me tell you why I'm right? So they can be one of those people, but hardworking. If you want someone on your team who is going to get it done, you get a 4 to do that. So then the 5 totally different than the 4. And the 5 is the sensual freedom seeker. I mean, everything in capital letters: fun, fearlessness, adventure, change, sexy, sensuous. These people are all about the experience. They are meant to experience the world in its most tactile transform. They are catalysts. They are change makers. They're what I call kind of the ADHD experience, because fives are all over the place usually. Freedom is their siren call, and they often feel very restricted, very tethered, very smothered in many ways, kind of one step in, 1 foot in, 1 foot out, 1 foot in, 1 foot out, oftentimes with the five. These people are natural salespeople. They are just these gregarious, forward-moving people. They are not meant to be doing one thing all the time. And yet one of their biggest challenges is to rein it in, because the five is about freedom through self-discipline. It's like that constructive use of freedom. So it's kind of that silly thing. I've had clients are like, well, that's stupid. Like, what does that even mean? You can't do that. I'm like, yes, actually, it sounds a little bit patronizing, but it's like, well, how do you get financial freedom to go do what you want? It's not just by going off and doing whatever you want, however you want, whenever you want. That's just self-indulgence, right? So you have to get the job you want. You have to save. You have to be structured enough to get the financial foundation that will support you in your financial freedom. Same with health, same with other things. So it's that sort of energy that goes with the five. So the flip side to the five, addictions, because they're always looking for the next high, can be like the escape hatch rather than freedom. There's a kind of that fine line, right, between freedom and escape and avoidance, those sorts of things. But the superpower of the five, very dynamic and always the change maker. So you fives, it's always fun to have a five in your world. So, and then the six is the nurturing visionary. This is the number of, it's a very interesting number. Even if you look at it, if you look at the number itself, it looks like a little pregnant belly, right? So I call someone who's a six the cosmic parent. I'm very careful though. That doesn't mean you have to go that traditional route with that. I know sixes who don't get married. I know sixes who don't have children, and yet they nurture in all kinds of other ways. And so the six is all about love, duty, service. It's very visionary. Sees the big picture where other people don't usually, and that's very frustrating for the the six, it drives them crazy that no one else can see the things that they do. Very justice oriented as well. I find a lot of sixes in the justice fields and in the beauty industry, because they're also very into that aesthetic beauty, right? Whether it's in your home environment, because if you think about your home, feeling nested, feeling, nurtured in that environment. So ultimately, the six is learning how to modulate their sense of responsibility, because usually they're born into circumstances where they have to grow up a little too fast, or they're more responsible than the average bear, right? And yet often they kind of tip over into the enabling realm. They feel like they have to do everything for everybody else, and then they resent the fact that they end up doing everything for everybody else, right?
Right.
So that's part of it. So the flip side to the six is really the six is a control freak, total control freak, and a perfectionist. So these are your superpowers as a six, and yet also you can look at them as needing to be massaged a lot of times, and letting other people take their own responsibility for things, and letting go of the control. Because ultimately your life lesson is to really accept the perfection of the imperfection of everything if you're a six. So the six can also be super judgmental. If a six walks in the room and is not happy, there ain't nobody happy when that happens. So that's the beautiful six, though, the nurturer. So the seven is the analyst, and sometimes reluctant spiritualist, because the seven is the seeker. And even if you think about the number 7, you know, seventh heaven, so lucky number 7, all of those numbers that are associated, or ideas that are associated with the 7. The 7 is learning trust, openness. They are natural intuitives, but it's a very interesting combination. I envision them as kind of that ultimate left brain, right brain continuum. They're incredibly heady, so much in their head, so much in their intellect, so much overthinking. Oh my dear goodness. And then they're also super psychic. And yet often they are, I say the mantra for the 7 is, well, okay, all right. If we're all having a spiritual experience in a human body, prove it. Prove it to me. So they're all about the proof, and yet learning how to trust the unprovable, right? Learning how to trust their intuitive guidance, their own intuitive language, and that is a slow, percolative process for the 7. I've known 7s. I have very good friends who are 7s. And one of my 7 girlfriends was like, are we slow learners? Are we just kind of slow studies? And I said, well, yeah, in some ways you are, because you have to think about it and experience it and test it and question it again, you know, so it's that slow percolative process. But overall, really, the 7 for me is a very internal journey in this lifetime. The 7 can do a lot of different things. I always look at different numbers in your chart if you're a 7 to see kind of the splash of color that will go on it. But overall, the 7 is really questioning their role in the cosmos, even if they don't know it, you know. They're really asking those deeper questions. The 7 is on a different wavelength, very highly refined mind, but learning how to balance that and trust in themselves and in other elements. They're also learning, so the challenge is they can be really frustrated if they skip on the superficial realm, because they're really meant to always be doing a deep dive. That can be problematic. It's just the superficial nature of that, and feeling very at sea, you know, like they're just not moored anywhere. They just feel like that lack of purpose. And yet overall, they are these incredible keepers and purveyors of wisdom, for lack of a better term. They are these fountains of wisdom. I often find 7s that are, you know, philosophers, professors, analysts, and they're also in the spiritual realms of, you know, energy work, being psychics, you know, other elements like that. So very interesting life path. So the 8 is, anyone knowing anything about numerology, the 8 is the money number, is what people will say. But I say, hold up, there's a lot more to it than that. The 8 is kind of the CEO energy. It's the manifester. The 8 is learning about everything having to do with manifestation on planet Earth, right? On terra firma. It's about money and finances. It's about power and empowerment. It's about control, authority, all of those very real world things. It is an intense life path, because it is going to test your integrity over and over again, and it's just going to test you. The 8 is the divine feminine. It's also infinity, and it's also very much a testing number. So it is going to, right out of the chute, I call the 8 the step up or get stepped on energy. You have to really step up to the plate and in a balanced way, right? Learning all about doing well financially, so that you can do the ultimate expression of that, give back. I don't know an 8 on the planet, one way or the other, who doesn't have money, a love-hate relationship with money. Let's put it that way. So money is a central theme. It's something we all have to deal with, but it is a central theme, right? And so the ultimate for the 8 is all about power, using it wisely, empowerment, using your influence, you know, building that influence. It's, again, you do very well in situations where you can pop into something that has an existing structure and take it up to the next level, manage it, organize it, again, be that kind of CEO, rather than being the entrepreneur. That's more like the one, right? So it's all business. Eights think in business terms. So the flip side there is, on that one level is over focused on money, workaholic, kind of greedy hoarder, that sort of thing. Very controlling, very dominating and domineering. On the other end of the spectrum, very victimized and not doing, not stepping up to the plate and getting kind of annihilated on that personal power realm, because you have to have the personal power before you can build on any of the rest of it. So it's a long haul, and it's up and down and all around. There's nothing linear usually in an 8 life path. Okay. So then we've got the 9. And so again, we're looking at 1 through 9. One is new start, self, beginning. 9 is the bookend to that. So 9 is endings. Conclusions. It's about universal wisdom. I call the 9 the compassionate and charismatic humanitarian. Very creative, very spiritually minded. These people are givers. Numerology will tell you that they're learning all about the value of limited rewards. And I think that always sounds so awful. So I want to really explain that. Basically what that means is that it's all about selfless service. It's all about coming from your heart and giving and being of service to the greater good. And so it's all about doing what speaks to your heart, and you're doing what you're doing because you can't not do it. And then, of course, everything comes in behind it in terms, I know so many 9s who are fabulously wealthy, they're philanthropists, they're, all of that thing. So what I like to say is, like, even if you can envision the 9, it's a very enigmatic number, I find, because it's all about kind of experiencing loss and kind of coming to terms with the true meaning that everything is temporary. And that the kind of practicing daily that Buddhist sort of concept of living in the present, letting go of the past without bitterness, without resentment, and looking to the next thing with some openness and curiosity, without attachment, right? Sounds easy, right?
Right. Not so easy for the 9.
Not so easy. It's not so
Yeah.
easy. It's beautiful. It's this beautiful energy. These people are learning how not to get enmeshed with other people, how not to enable. They're learning not to give and to receive. And they're also learning, if you're a visual, conceptual person like I am, so it's a high spiritual vibe, and also very creative and quirky. 9s are weirdos, right? In every best way that it can possibly be. And so if we think about it, put all of these 9 life paths that you might know who are famous into a pot, right? And see what comes out. So we've got Mother Teresa, Gandhi, Yogananda, we have Greta Thunberg, we have Malala, and again, Greta Thunberg, selectively mute, right? Asperger's. She has some quirky things. All of these people have something that's their own in that way. I find a lot of times 9s are not in the mainstream in terms of they do have ADHD, they do have dyslexia. Not always. Please don't come away with this saying that you have to have this if you're a 9. But often it comes into play to make you tap into the way that you see the world and see other people in a more expansive way. Right? And so it's a very interesting thing. And then think about some of the creatives who are, not that these other people in the spiritual world aren't creative, but think about Prince is a 9, Jim Carrey, Elvis Presley, who was also into numerology, by the way, which I love. You've got David Byrne, you've got all of the Eddie Izzard, who he's I don't know if anyone knows Eddie. I love him, and he's going on another marathon in January. 31 days, 31 marathons to raise money to make humanity great again. That is his tagline right now. That is like the ultimate mantra for the 9. It's all about humanity. It's all about humanitarian service. It's all about, doing something for the greater good as a whole, as a planet. And so these people are learning how to let go and how not to hold on to, like, they can be emotional hoarders and actual physical hoarders, holding on to things rather than letting them go. And they can be people who have a hard time listening to others. They're more like, just, I'm gonna give you my lecture and that's it. I don't want any input, So, but all the numbers are, everyone's always like, oh, well, their number is better than mine, or, blah, blah, blah. No, you're absolutely perfectly where you're meant to be. And it is what you are meant to really aspire and master, aspire toward and master in this lifetime. So then if we look at master numbers, like you are a master number, life path 11-2, we'll be very short here because I know people are always like, oh, I want to know more and more and more about the master numbers. Maybe we'll do a whole thing on the master numbers one day, but the master numbers, basically, again, to reiterate, they're the 11, 22, 33. They go on, but those are the ones that we would talk about in a chart. And those basically indicate that you came in with some higher spiritual potential, no matter how you might kind of personally define that, and some more challenges. You're being asked to really master these aspects of your life. You're being asked to be very humble, gain a sense of humility, level the ego, all of those things. Those with master numbers have this innate anxiety. And I hate to break it to you, it never goes away, but you can modulate it though, and you can understand it, right? You can play with it and befriend it a little bit more when you understand that that's because master numbers people are the people who are like, oh my gosh, I don't know, but I know I'm meant to do something really special and something, but I know I'm behind and I don't want, oh my God, they're like always thinking that they're just totally behind the 8 ball and they're not living up to the task, right?
Oh, I know. How many times have I used that expression? It's funny. I just living in the Bay Area of San Francisco for so many years. I developed this expression, and I would always say, I feel like I'm running behind the trolley up Powell Street into San Francisco. And it's that feeling like, oh my gosh, I got to get going. So it's so interesting for me to learn that this is just who I am. And I came into the world like this, and it's for me to work with.
Absolutely. And that's what I do love about this. It's very empowering. I find that, when we can name something, we can work with it. We can, do something about it. And each of the numbers have what I consider to be like thematics, right? And so whenever we're feeling off, we're veering outside of the realm of those thematics, right? So if you're a 3 and you're not being creative and you're not communicating, you're going to feel depressed. You're probably going to get sick, right? Because you're depressing that energy. So it's a beautiful thing to go, oh, where am I not allowing myself to be creative? Where am I not really expressing myself? And that can open that up. But if we don't have the information, we kind of think, or at least from personal experience, I kind of think it's a random sidebar, something, I don't know, I don't know if this is something that maybe I'm just lying myself. I mean, we don't trust ourselves, right? We don't trust the way in which we experience that. So to put it in front of us and go, oh, wow, that is something that I can really use. I can keep coming back to this and aligning to this. And I can know what my default patterns are, right? And when I'm doing that, I can at least acknowledge it, like, oh, there I go again, because again, it's never going to go away. It's that repeated pattern of keeping mastering it. As we repeat it, we keep mastering different levels of it. So it's also kind of a nice thing to be able to be kinder to ourselves. Because I think the way that we do a lot of our self-talk, again, not to be too corny, we wouldn't talk to anybody the way we talk to ourselves, would we, overall?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'll agree with that.
Yeah.
Because when I talk to my patients and you hear what they're saying, and I tell them to go home and do self-affirmations, because the self-talk can be so destructive to people.
Yeah.
But when you understand, your numerology and your life path number, it opens a whole different door, and you all of a sudden can understand why you have those feelings, and then you can work with that.
Exactly. You can validate it and then also derive meaning and then tweak it, right? And change it and really
Mm-hmm.
get into it and align with it in different ways. So for those of you who might have the master number 11, the 22, the 33, the 11-2 is kind of the spiritual activator. The 11 is the number of spiritual illumination. Sounds easy enough. So what I'll say up front, we're not going to dig too deeply into these, but if you go back and listen to this podcast and you do double the one, if you can think about it, double up on the number 1, and then single, and then think about the 2, because with the 11-2, the 2 is the foundational energy. It's the love bug, right? All about giving, all about heart, all about intuitive, all about connection. But the 1, so all of the master numbers are it's kind of the cosmic cruel joke, like all your cosmic support team that's sitting there in the theater with their popcorn going, hey, let's watch this and see how she does this one, right? This is going to be fun to watch this play out. So they're innately in conflict with each other, particularly the 11-2, because the 2 is that receptive energy, that supportive energy. Again, we've just talked about what elements are the 2 is all about, that it contains. But then you've got the double 1. And the double 1, it's like the ultimate yin yang, male, masculine, feminine. The 1 is more masculine. The 1 is assertive. The 1 is self. The 1 is all about leadership and standing, and being large and in charge. It's all of those things that make the 2 want to vomit, right? I mean, the 2, when you have the 11-2, you're going to often arm wrestle and struggle with really wanting to be out there and wanting to take the lead. And, spoiler alert, if you have a master number, you are meant to get out there. You're meant to take the lead in whatever field or whatever capacity that you want to. And that doesn't mean that you have to, be this superstar. It doesn't mean you have to own $1 billion company or anything. It just means that within your world, right, that you are up leveling as much as you can, in that way, that you're always expanding and thinking bigger, that you're not retracting. So, but with the 11-2, it's a very, very masculine, feminine. I say that the 11-2 is kind of loving with an edge, right? There's a little bit with that. So, so we'll keep it at that for the 11-2. The 22-4, again, the foundational energy here is the 4. So go back and listen to the 4, that systems builder, the solid, steady, the worker bee, the artisan, all of that. But then splash double 2s on there, which is a little disconcerting for the 4. It's like, oh no, all this emotion, right? All of
Right.
this. And this is out of my wheelhouse, right? So all the emotion, all wanting to connect, all the diplomacy, all of that emotional acuity that goes with that. But then you've got that solid, steady, get her done 4. So the 4 is the master builder. And it's also considered the teacher of teachers, in my opinion. And in numerology, pretty much, I think, known as the most powerful force in numerology. And it is meant for the long haul. It's not, if you're 22-4, you're building something that hopefully will outlive you, right, in some way, shape, or form. So the 33 is, not to put too fine a color on it, the 33 is the teacher and the practitioner of unconditional love. Try that hat on for size. So again, look at the 6, that nurturer, that visionary, the caretaker, all of those things, and then put a double dash of 3. So you're here to serve, to be this beautiful, nurturing presence, to give, and to do it with some fun, and with some communication, and with some laughter, and with some levity, and with some performative kind of capability, with a really good sense of communication. And the 33 is all of them can have their rough moments, right? As everyone's can. You don't have to have a master number for that. But it's because the 33 sixes are often really feeling the weight of the world, right? Because they are the caretakers, they're the visionaries, they're the ones who, want to heal on that level. So it can feel very heavy. So they're learning how to manage that and how to modulate their sense of purpose and make it be okay in whatever segment they focus on, that's enough. As long as you're really, again, leaning into those qualities of the nurturing and the caretaking and doing that with a little bit kind of, whistle while you work while you're doing that. So that's the basic sweep of all the numbers. There's always so much I've always been fascinated with how much information the numbers carry with them.
Right. It's fascinating. It's almost like when you're talking about the different numbers, it's almost like we were steeped in different molds. Okay, I'm going to do this challenge this life. I need to learn about these things. It's very interesting because when you look at it from outside space, looking down at Earth, we got all these people with the different numbers, but the world wouldn't be able to sustain itself if we didn't have all these different people that are drawn to doing certain things, because we need people that are doctors, we need people that are massage therapists, we need numerologists, we need bankers and lawyers and taxi drivers, right? And we're all steeped in it. We come in with that life purpose. It's very interesting.
I always find it really interesting, and I'm kind of the funny visual person. So I visualize, I hope I won't do a disclaimer. I visualize it. It's like you're a soul spark sitting around the table at a bar with your cosmic support team. You've had a couple, you're on your second
Right.
martini,
Right.
and you're like, yeah, this one looks good. I've never done this one before. It's like you're signing up with the catalog, and you're like, hey, I've already taken math. I've already taken this. Let me try this. I've heard of it, but I've never done it. And then you come down to planet Earth where it's so dense, and you're like, oh my gosh, can
I change my number, please?
yeah, can I didn't look at the fine print. Can I terminate my contract here? And I say that jokingly because so many people really, one of the things that I've noticed over and over, even, on I do some videos with YouTube and everything else, and one of the common denominators over and over that people will write is how everyone wants to know that they're here for a reason and that they're special. Number one. Mm-hmm. And number two that I find is that, and people are always talking about how hard their life is. It doesn't matter what number you are, right?
Absolutely.
Everyone feels like it's very hard and like they're being cherry picked, with the lightning bolt or something. And yet one of the beautiful things I think about, leaning into esoteric practices or just all of this is to understand that no, everyone experiences, even the people we look at with jealousy or with envy or whatever and think their life is so easy. It's all perspective, right? It really is. And to understand that that's what life is.
Exactly.
Is needing that. And the numbers also, when you do, if it jives with you, if you get jazzed about it, knowing the numbers 1 through 9, you can look at, we all experience the numbers 1 through 9, even if we don't have certain numbers in our chart. We'll experience it maybe in cycles of time, like in your personal, everyone goes through personal year cycles 1 through 9. So even if you don't have it in your chart, you will experience that energy, at least through a cycle of time. So it's a really wonderful thing. And if you think about it, even just the thematics for each of the number are what make an entire kind of, it's all the experiences of life.
Mm-hmm.
It's about learning about self, learning about emotion and other people's and patients. It's learning about communication and creativity and solid, goals and work, and having fun and sex and sensuality and nurturing and family and home and spirituality and analysis and money and power and then wisdom and universal, like where do we fit in the cosmos, right? So it's this whole trajectory that we can look at as kind of containing everything. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, I love the personal year. We were talking a little bit right before we started this podcast. If people would be interested in learning more about their personal year or master numbers, if you are, shoot me an email to dr.lotte, L-O-T-T-E .dse@gmail.com. You can also find it on my website if you lose this email. But let me know if you would be interested in having Felicia talk about personal year or masterpath life numbers or anything else in numerology. And Felicia might be able to come back and do another episode. I would obviously love that because I love numerology, and Felicia is absolutely amazing. A really good source to learn more about that. I know that you also wrote 2 books. So if people want to know more about numerology and they're fascinated by this, I know you wrote 2 books. One is Using Numerology to Create the Wildly Optimal You, and also a book on just the master numbers in case you have a master number. And it's called Master Numbers 11, 22, 33, The Ultimate Guide. If people are interested in getting one of your books, where can they find them?
I would just say go to my website. So it's Felicia Bender, Felicia Bender.com. Kind of like bye, Felicia. All you guys, I get that a lot. And I love it. I embrace my inner bye, Felicia. But it's FeliciaBender.com. It's kind of the portal for all things numerology. I actually, in January, will be starting a Redesign Your Life workshop based on the book, where we'll have you can sign up for a program and go through the book and have my support and also support of a group going through it as well. I've got monthly forecasts free that you can either listen to or read on the website, and all kinds of, you can get the books there. They actually are on Amazon, both of the books, but you can go through the portal there. So I've just attempted to make that as much of a resource for everything numerology that you could want. Lots of articles. You can look up anything that might be of interest to you. So and YouTube. And so there's some stuff on YouTube. I have a YouTube channel with some videos about your all of it, about all of the numbers. So I just love this resource and think that if it speaks to you, I just love to introduce you to the information.
Well, it's been wonderful to have you on the show and sharing your knowledge. So everyone, go to her website and check it out. She has a lot of information on there, and you can also order your own life path number reports and personal year reports on your website, right?
Yes.
It's FeliciaBender.com. So again, Felicia, I hope to have you back on a future podcast again and go a little bit deeper about numerology. So again, anybody who's interested in having Felicia back, please shoot me an email to drlotte.dse@gmail.com. That's drlotte.dse@gmail.com. So thank you so much, Felicia, for coming on to the podcast today.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed listening to this episode of Dr. Lotte, Science with Soul. Make sure you are subscribed so you will be notified of new episodes as they become available. To book a session with me or to sign up for a workshop or to see me as a physician, please visit drlotte.com or divinespiritualessence.com. My book, Med School After Menopause, The Journey of My Soul, is available online at Amazon as well as other online platforms worldwide.